I was going to say the real post-apocalyptic future is going to be when I have an AI-based assistant bot, and I say, "Hey, please go get me some rates on mortgages," and it goes and talks to the mortgage bot, and they all fight it out and then come back. So that'll be the real weird future when we send our own AIs to talk to other things and talk to other AIs.
Welcome to the CX and Culture Connection, the podcast for leaders looking to drive value from their investments in CX and culture together. I'm excited to talk today to Alec Hanson, who is the CMO of LoanDepot, and he's also got his own podcast, which he'll share more details about in today's discussion. Thanks so much for joining, Alec.
Awesome, Matt. Thanks to be here, man. I appreciate it so much.
Just to get us started, maybe do you want to share a little bit more about your background and how you got involved at LoanDepot?
Yeah, I'd love to. So I've been in the crazy mortgage industry for 22 years, and I spent a lot of my time in that business in the sales side. And previously to my job as CMO, I was running the Western United States for our retail branch network and running sales. So I spent a lot of time in sales and marketing, specific in the mortgage niche, and so it gives me a unique background coming into the CMO position, having such a deep sales history. But I prefer to think of it as an advantage, kind of giving me a little insider knowledge to the people we're serving. So today I run all the brand initiatives for LoanDepot. I run our social strategies. I run our direct-to-consumer strategies, and I support our entire distributed retail platform of thousands of LOs out there running around. So lots to do. I'm really busy, but it's an interesting time for mortgage, so that's always fun for me.
I definitely agree that the vantage point you have coming into CMO role from sales is a really unique, interesting background, just given the ongoing need for marketing, sales, and service to collaborate together. So that's fantastic. Do you want to elaborate a little bit more about some of the kind of lessons learned from sales that you apply in a CMO role?
Yeah, I mean, I've always considered sales and marketing as two sides of the same coin. They're different. They're different strategies, they're different things, but they are really intimately connected. And so I think that stepping into this role, kind of being able to kind of tap that side of the priorities in my own brain and deliver that back to the sales team, it gives our own internal team, I know, a lot of confidence that the guy in the seat kind of knows what their pain points are. But I lived it so long that it's kind of second language to me. So it's definitely an interesting blend of skill sets.
Where does customer experience fit in your priorities as a CMO?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it's one of the underlying tenets of the entire world that I'm building here at LoanDepot. Because the customer experience for a lot of people has been segmented out, and I'll give you an example in the lending world. For a lot of sales professionals, the customer experience starts when you and I start talking about a loan, and now we're kind of in that customer experience, and we drive a lot of efficiencies and kind of updates and milestone efforts through the experience from application to the closing of your loan, and that's where most people in lending kind of put the customer experience. It's like, hey, I'm getting a loan, I'm applying, and then I'm closing it. Now I'm done. My personal viewpoint is, the customer experience starts way, way before they choose to apply for a loan. The customer experience starts when they bump into us on social media, or they see one of our ads, or they watch a baseball game and they see LoanDepot behind home plate, and they're kind of going, what is that? I'm not sure I'm familiar with that brand, or I heard about it, or I don't know what they do, all the way through application. And then even further, once we close a loan, there are so many things that happen with that customer that are part of their experience with us through the life, as long as they have that loan. So one of the things I've been really focusing on and building around with our team here is, how does that all become interconnected? How does the awareness stage all through the I'm a customer and I'm paying my mortgage every month stage become part of a seamless experience? And that's really what some of the things we're leaning into today.
So it sounds like the journey the customer's on starts when they're dreaming and they're getting inspired about their home purchase, and they may get triggered into shopping mode from some experience they have at a baseball game or other places where your brand's present, but it doesn't start when they're in the buying process. It starts before that, and there are experiences that impact your brand and then impact the way they approach you.
Yeah, I think of it like this, Matt. So a customer is already on their own journey and experience in their life. And so let's just talk about like their home ownership journey. There's a huge path that they're on way before they bump into a lender. They're thinking about it. They're talking to their spouse about it. They're wondering if they can afford it. They're talking to the bank of mom and dad. They're getting their budget in line. Like there's so much going on before they go, maybe we should go get a loan and talk to a loan company and see if we qualify. And where my head's at is, wow, we need to be a part of that way before they start getting into like, hey, I need a loan. Who should I talk to? And so an interesting, strategy we're pouring out into this is, launching our own consumer-centric podcast called Homeschool that's coming out in about a month. That's designed to teach people the things they don't learn in college. And we're bringing on financial planners and tax preparers and realtors and inspectors and appraisers and people that center around the home, life, but also the stuff that surrounds that, like budgeting and their credit and all that other fun stuff. Because we want to be part of the conversation and part of the journey or the experience they're having in this giant linear process before they're like, now I need to get a loan. If that's where we're coming into the conversation, that's fine. That's very traditional. But I want to be part of it when they're thinking about it and when they're budgeting and when they're dreaming.
A lot of companies that invest in digital are really building experiences that go beyond the functional benefits of their product or service directly and connect more and provide solutions and value to the customer in their broader experiences. And what you're talking about sounds like it has a lot of that in it around how do I connect to their emotions, connect to the problems they're solving, and then how do I reinforce the expertise that I'm delivering to them as part of their experience that previously maybe was a person provided that experience, and now you're delivering through digital in a better emotionally engaging experience.
Yeah, I mean, another example of this is the mortgage industry, the modern mortgage industry has been around for a long time, decades. And even then, there's still so much confusion around how to get a loan and what kind of loan I should get. And there's tons of mystery still around we still have customers all the time that are like, I need 20% down. And I know it's like it's an internal joke around here because we're like, how is that still a thing that people believe? Even though, because you don't. And that doesn't mean it's for everybody, but there's options out there. There's solutions that are different. And so in our head, it's like we need to be part of the helping people understand the opportunity. I'll give you a great example. We have a terrific team out in New Jersey, and there's local programs that are available in certain counties or certain states that people might call down payment assistance or bond programs or grants and literally in some areas it's free money. It's like, here's $5,000 if you buy in New Jersey. Like it's like literally like that. And this one team has given away $280,000 to first-time homebuyers year to date this year through those county and state programs. And it's literally free money. And it's like that's incredible. That's such an awesome, and you just have to know about it. You're just like, is this real? How do I learn this? And so where my head goes is, what an opportunity we have to go way into the early stages of awareness and inspiration and start telling people, hey, you can buy a house with 3% down. In certain markets now, there's a 1% down conventional loan, and coming out in a couple weeks, there's a 0% down FHA loan. VA for our veterans is 0% down. Now, is that what you should do? No, but it's what you can do. And so let's talk about the options and let's get you prepared. That's what gets me excited about the customer experience is it's not just from an application to a fund. It's part of the education. It's part of the post-close. It's this huge, amazing journey that we're really going to lean into.
How do you think about these experiences as contributing to the brand at LoanDepot? How do the experiences shape or reinforce congruence with your brand?
So I kind of have there's lots of definitions of brand or what does brand mean and all that stuff. I like to fall back on the emotional response people have to the thing, to LoanDepot or to their experience or to their friend's experience or whatever it is, the emotional side of the brand feel. And I give an example. I talk about brands in our new hire orientation, and I'll put a bunch of brands on the screen. And when I put Amazon up on the screen, universally I see people smile and they don't even know they're smiling, but the delight that Amazon brings people with its speed and consistency and all the things it does creates an emotional response that people have when they just see the logo, because they're so immersed in what that product or service provides them. So from the LoanDepot perspective, I want people to go, that group of humans under that umbrella helped me. They inspired me when I wasn't inspired. They gave me a resource and even if they don't use us, I mean, that's the best testament to our brand that I could ever live by. If somebody says, I didn't end up using you because X, Y, Z, but man, in my journey, you guys were significant in educating and supporting and helping and inspiring me to make some great moves into housing. And so that's really where I believe all these efforts and the consumer experience build brand, because it builds that emotional connection. And a lot of brands build that through funny commercials. You Geico, all these things. You see the funny commercial, and you're like, "Oh, that's funny," and so that brand like sticks in my head. But what we do is different, because lending is hard, and lending is complex, and lending also has a little bit of a taint to it, because in the history of lending, there's been people that have been bad actors, and so there's a bad taste in some general public about lenders. But also, lenders have a lot of power. Like, unfortunately, we have to say no to people. No, now is not the right time for you. You need to fix some credit stuff, or you need to get a little more money in the bank. And that's a very vulnerable position for a customer that people don't like. We as customers like to be in positions of power. I'm giving you money, you're giving me what I want. We don't want to be like on bended knee to be like, "Please, sir, can I get a loan?" So there's a lot of emotion in lending. And I think we have a unique opportunity in this cycle to be a leader in helping people achieve this dream, in empowering people through education. And through that, Matt, like through that customer journey, we can build deep emotional connection to the brand. And sure, we can be relatable and a brand that's people can feel comfortable calling. But at the end of the day, we want to be a brand that people bump into and say, that was a significant help in my life in that period of my life.
I love the way you're focusing on emotion. One of my earlier podcast guests, Lou Carbone, likes to say that a brand is what people say about you, and your customer experience is how they feel about themselves. And then the emotion they feel. What you're talking about is very similar, about the emotions really matter, and the CX is how you want them to feel going through the experience, which reinforces your brand in a positive way. And your brand is built through those experiences.
Yeah, I love that. I agree. That's a great statement.
When you think about the customer experience and measurement, do you carry that through into the way you look for insights and the way you track the experience to look for the emotions or look for the markers in the experience that reinforce you're actually delivering on the emotions you want?
Yeah, I mean, we do what I would call the bread and butter stuff. So we track our NPS score. We're surveying customers constantly. We're checking in. We have a lot of things in place if things go off the rails, with management and layers to kind of dive in and say, well, let me help you. Here's another person you can contact. So we do our best, and we have very, very strong customer satisfaction results from that. But the most powerful part Matt, that I think we do is we take those customer responses and they get pushed back down to our local leadership level and our salesperson level every month. And it gives us a chance to step back out, because let me say it this way. If people have been in lending and if they've ever listened to this, they'll recognize this. We live in like 30-day cycles. For some reason, the lending industry is built on these 30-day cycles where it's just the month end is always crazy and we're trying to close loans, and then we're back out trying to bring in new ones, and it's this big cycle. And in that process, you can get very transactional and jaded on accident, because you're just carrying so much stress and repetitive, processes, that it's very easy to forget, like, there's a first-time home buyer right here whose life is being changed forever, and they're bringing their baby home to their new house, and then we're closing that loan on Friday, and they're going to get the keys on Saturday. Because we get into the meat of the grind. But when we pull out those surveys and we marinate on them and we celebrate them and we talk about them and we show them on our sales meetings and we, get the customer's permission to maybe share them, we get that bit of humanity plugged back into our culture that reminds us that what we're doing is significant, and that these humans that we're working with day in, day out in this stressful process. Because I can tell you, if you've ever moved and gotten new loans and sold your house, and it is bananas. There is so much going on in trying to get out of your place to a new place, and the movers are coming, and it's so heavy. But it's that taking that pause and realizing, hey, this is really impactful and amazing, brings that humanity back into our lives.
So you talked about the way you bring those insights, that data into your people. I infer from that like there's a certain pride that you want your people to feel, intrinsically in helping the customer, and that's part of your culture as the employees. Can you talk a little bit about this employee customer experience connection and how you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where it's very important that we never forget what we're really doing. And that's hard because, a processor, an underwriter, and all these people are doing their jobs day in, day out, and it can feel repetitive. Here's another file. I'm looking at something else again. In fact, it can even be, 22 years in the business, right? We have underwriters that have been here that like just as long. You look at another application and it's hard to see the person through the paper. It's very normal to look at the data. Here's a credit score. Here's an income. Here's a wage. There's two dependents. That's how it's listed, right? Dependents. Like that's two children, right? If anyone has children, you're like, oh yeah, that's a lot. So seeing the people through the paper is really important for us on a regular basis because it reminds us why we do what we're doing. And so, yeah, culturally, it is very important that we share those successes, share the insights, share the comments, high five each other, and really look at it because it does, reinvigorate the team. It keeps us focused on our culture and what we're doing, and helps us, get back to work sometimes because we're just humans too, and we get tired and annoyed and burn out and all the things that happen in our world.
I mean, it's awesome. See the people through the paper. I love that phrase. And the podcast name, and I have a book coming out next month and it has the same name as the podcast. It's called CX and Culture Connection.
Awesome.
But it's about how CX and culture go together. So I love what you're saying, Alec, about how, at LoanDepot, you see yourself as a champion, a catalyst for the culture, which is fantastic. Yeah. We shift gears for a minute and think about AI. We were talking about insights a moment ago, and AI can be used to mine information for insights, to whether it's the open questions in the surveys you talked about, or your call center verbatims, or chat bots, or social media, or messaging. There's the Zoom meetings increasingly will be a source of unstructured data. How are you thinking about AI either for insights or personalization of the experience, or other things like content or things in your marketing? Where are you focused for AI today, and where are you thinking that you go in the future?
Yeah, that's a great question, Matt. So from an early stage AI, I think it's going to play a significant role in its client liaison chatbot style kind of customer service experience. Because today, if you talk to most customers, they don't want to call you. They don't want to get on a phone for an issue. They want to go on their smartphone or on their computer, and they want to chat with something, and they want to get it solved, get a solution. And manning that from a customer service perspective is very hard to scale because you just got to add more and more and more and more people, and you just got to keep going up. But it's also very relevant to what the consumer wants today. So we're in very early stages of unrolling our own AI-centric chatbot that's LoanDepot-ized, and that can help somebody get what they need. And I was challenged on this by somebody recently who said, well, I'm familiar with chatbots, and they're like, here's 3 things, which one do you want? And you click it, and you're forced to go down these paths in these kind of existing chatbots that aren't human-backed. And, customers don't really want that either. They want a fluid conversational experience. So the challenge that I was posed was, hey, are people really going to talk to this thing and use it to get what they want? And I said, as long as it's getting them what they want. If it doesn't give them what they want, they will be pissed, and they will try to call or email or get a solution somewhere else. So, these AI solutions are only as good as the customer wants. But I've played around with ChatGPT. I've been on these platforms and Jasper AI. They're fantastic. They provide tons of solutions. They're super interesting. They give huge efficiency lifts. And so my opinion in early AI is it's going to come right along some customers in the loan qualification place. We're putting it inside our direct messaging in our social platforms, because people go, hey, I have a question about a loan. Great, let me help you. What do you have? Are you looking to talk to a human? Are you looking to get information? Are you looking to get qualified? You want some, and it's going to be a very powerful tool in my mind for that level of customer service. We also have it integrating in our servicing. So let's say Matt, you have a loan with LoanDepot and you make payments and you have a question. Great. It's going to be on your phone. Open up the app, talk to it, ask it questions. People are behind it, so it can push you wherever you need. But I think it's going to live in that space for the time being. Eventually, could it go into a place where it's actually underwriting loans, or it's actually picking up huge fulfillment capacity things? Potentially. But there's so much regulation in lending too today that there's huge mountains for that to climb. You have to be licensed to quote customers' rates and payments. They're not going to license AI, at least in the near future. So, if you still want to get information on a loan, you're going to talk to a licensed professional. That's going to still be a thing until they figure that out. So, in our industry specifically, there's big roadblocks for it, but I see it coming fast into our life period. So, be ready.
I remember a video that was built by a team for in the mortgage space. Actually, it was an example in the video years ago when I was at PwC that they showed a person interacting with a customer, and then all these experiences that the customer had, and then the meeting where the agent shows up again for the closing, and you realize that everything between the first meeting and the last meeting was an AI bot. Right? It was like their future vision, but it was the human machine interaction. And you couldn't, the point was the customer didn't know and didn't care that they were interacting with the bot because it was an authentic, emotionally engaging experience. So as long as we design an experience where it's either a person or a bot and you get a seamless handoff and the customer gets what they want, they won't know and care that whether it's a human or bot, they just get a great experience.
The real the real post-apocalyptic future is going to be when I have an AI-based assistant bot and I say, hey, please go get me some rates on mortgages, and it goes and talks to the mortgage bot, and they all fight it out and then come back. So that'll be the real weird future when we send our own AIs to talk to other things and talk to other AIs.
It's taking social shopping used to be human beings interacting with each other and sharing their experiences. Now we have two bots shopping. Hey, do you look at other industries for inspiration ever? And if so, what draws your attention? Where do you spend time?
Well, so the short answer is of course. I mean, I think there's inspiration all around us. I mentioned Amazon earlier just as a case study. I mean, there's tons of things to open up your eyes and see new things. And I am a huge fan and fascinated by how everybody positions themselves, what they're trying to accomplish, what's their message, what are they trying to do in the world today. I'm drinking this bottled water or canned water called Liquid Death, which is, to me, one of the funniest contemporary branding exercises of our time. Think about these guys are deciding they're going to start a water company in the midst of all the big cola that's in water. It's an insane place to go and compete. It's like, let's go compete against these professional billion-dollar organizations and start a water company. And it's an exercise in branding. It's 100% just a brand exercise. It's just bottled or canned water. So what else are you selling? But I love watching what other organizations do, how they position themselves, and what stories they tell, because I think it's fascinating.
I'm going to come back for a minute to the employee customer experience intersection. What are the skills that you want in your teams and your people, or more broadly in the organization? Like, what disciplines or skills you think are important to drive some of these opportunities in brand and customer experience that we're talking about?
Well, I think we touched on one earlier, but I'll hit it again as kind of a high note. Perspective is crucially important in customer experience and as a discipline, because we could get jaded in the jobs we do. We just get in the grind of it all, and we just don't step back every now and then and be like, wait a minute, there's a person here or a family here. And so I think that as a discipline is crucially important. I think another discipline that's crucially important is being connected to the purpose of the organization, because the bigger organizations get, or the more, it's hard to maintain your soul like, how many times have you heard like, well, I'm just a cog in a wheel, or these companies just chew you up and you're just kind of, it's a meat grinder, and you realize like, wait, no, something failed here intensely if you feel that way, or the culture's failed and it's a toxic organization or whatever it is. You have to constantly, like, it's a daily discipline, like, exercising, showering, brushing your teeth. Like, you got to tune into, like, are we still going in the right direction? There's an old book from a mentor of mine that was, written, called The Canoe Theory. And I love the simplicity of it, because it talks about, hey, we're all on a team on a canoe. And if we're all rowing in the right direction, we're going to go far. If we have people rowing in the wrong direction on the canoe, you go in circles. And it had a bunch of other analogies and lessons, like sometimes you have to let people off the canoe and they need to find their own canoe. They're not on the right one anymore. And all these silly stories that, to me, tie back into the daily disciplines of, like, why are we doing what we're doing? What's our purpose? What's our focus? How do we support each other in that environment? It's these daily disciplines that drive customer experience. Because as soon as, you probably could have seen this 1,000 times. We all have. You bump into an employee at a company who's jaded or burned out, and your experience and your definition of that company's brand is based on that one interaction with that one person, and you're like, I'm never shopping or eating there again. And I was like, hold on a second, that's not the company. That's one person who is having a terrible day, or who's just really, it could be a reflection of the company. The company's supporting that person. Maybe they haven't helped them get off the canoe yet. But like that's a very great, interesting case study for me that we've all experienced in real life, with like one bad thing at one place, and then we're like, that whole place is toxic or terrible. And you're like, well, maybe. So I think, Matt, the daily disciplines of focusing on perspective.
Yeah, I love your and like retail. Yeah, retail and customer experience. People often say it's like theater, because it impacts people, the performance. You're a guest. You're on stage. You're on stage. You're a cast member, as Disney says, and one experience could affect your brand. And what you're also highlighting is the mindsets and skills are one thing, but the behaviors and how people feel day to day is actually really, really important. And you called it daily practices. So translating what you want, the purpose, and what you want the brand, and what you want to do at a company, down to behaviors people can do every day, either individually or supporting each other, makes or break the culture.
Yeah, it's defining it every day, right? It's defining it every day. You're either becoming closer to this type of a culture or closer to this type of a culture, or somewhere, like, it's every day.
Yeah, I like to think of it as, in culture, you've got 4 building blocks: the mindsets, the behaviors, the skills, and the relationship networks. I learned this at the Katzenbach Center at PwC, the Center for Culture and Change Leadership that I was part of, focusing on CX and culture and how they come together. And among those 4, behaviors is actually really important, because if you have negative behaviors, it crowds out the positive behaviors and affects everyone's interaction with each other. It pulls the energy of the organization down. You waste time. You can't make decision-making effectiveness suffers. Interaction with customers suffers. Behavior trumps everything else if it's going badly. And at small companies that grow, they kind of lose their way and lose their culture. Big companies fight their cultures. So ultimately, what you're talking about, daily practices, it's fantastic, because you're kind of zooming in on the culture and the behavior, and thinking about how do we translate this into reality every day. Yeah. So where do you see things going with all the, you're a very digitally native company, and a lot of focus on, social, mobile, e-commerce, community around the brand that you're building through some of your podcasts and other things. Where's the puck headed?
I like to try to put a balance on where I think the puck is headed, because there's a lot of different narratives out there around the lending industry, sales, marketing, and all these bigger, broader topics. And I think the one thing that people generally forget is you have to serve customers the way they want to be served. And what I mean by that is you got to be a student of what's happening around you. There's a lot of gurus out there who are going to tell you how it is. There's so many who would be like, this is what is happening and here's the future. And I'm like, really? You sure? Are you paying attention? What do people want? And so I'll give you a good example of that. In the mortgage world, it was thought forever that everything was going to be pure digital. You're going to be working on your phones. You're going to be talking to people on chatbots. You are never, the local pro, the local mortgage guy or gal that's down the street from you is irrelevant. And that was, I'm talking, this is like 10, 20 years ago, I've heard that rhetoric. The whole mortgage world's going digital. Today, over I think it's 50, 60% of all mortgages are done by a local person who's sitting down the street from you. And so you have to go, well, how did people screw that up? How did people get that wrong? Well, it's because, of course, people want to get on their phone to find information. And of course, they're going to be on there on social platforms and on YouTube and cruising around and all this stuff. But then all of a sudden, when it comes down to someone who's going to buy a home, especially a first home, it gets real. And then those moments, people really want a human that they have some reliability with or connection to or trust with. It's one of those things where the brand value, you're fine buying a hammer on Amazon, but I guarantee you, if you needed brain surgery tomorrow to remove a tumor, you're probably going to the best surgeon you can find in the world. Period. Life and death. Now, a mortgage isn't life and death. So it's not becoming this extreme moment in time. But the stress on this thing and the drama around it and the concern and the fear is real. And people still want to fall back and find someone that they know and that they trust and that they like that can help them through that process. And so it's a very fascinating world we live in mortgage, where there's this tension between purely digital and local, and the reality is, pay attention to what customers are doing and what they want. I'll give you another fun example. It's a micro example. We recently launched a social strategy in our sister company, Mellow Home, which is designed to provide home services, real estate services, moving services, things that can help you around the living in and moving of your home, not the financing, but the other stuff. And as we started a social strategy on that, we were getting lots of direct messages. I have a question. I have a concern. I need a realtor. I need a loan. What are these moving services about? How do I get my credit monitored? All these questions in the direct messaging. And in my dumb mind, as I built this out, I was like, hey, we need to get a landing page. And that landing page is where we're going to send people who come in and have questions so they can get directed to the right person. Because to me, that made perfect sense. Hey, I have a question. I'll click through, I'll fill out my form, and we'll get it to the right person. Nobody wanted to go to the landing page. They hated it. Our entire human connection part fell off. They disappeared. I'm like, where did everyone go? They were asking questions every 5 seconds, and now they just disappeared. And I was like, well, where are my assumptions on this? I had these huge assumptions that, of course, if someone needed something, they'll go and put their information in. We'll get it to the right person. No. Because they wanted to interact the way they wanted to interact. They didn't want to interact the way I wanted them to interact or the way I thought they should be interacting. And this is the whole tension between, where's this whole world going? Where's the puck going? And my encouragement for anybody asking that question or trying to figure that out is to just pay immediate attention to what their customers are doing today, because they're going to tell you, they're showing you today what they want to do. If you talk to them and if you ask them, one of the best things, Matt, I've found is going to customers and be like, how was your experience? What'd you prefer? What you didn't like? Because they'll just tell you, hey, I really didn't like the fact that I had to do this. And if you can get me a solution where I don't have to do that in the future, that's what I'm going to do. And so that's my commentary on where's the puck going? I'm like, they're telling you right now, just pay attention. They'll tell you how to position today.
Yogi Berra had one of his great quotes that I love, which is, you observe a lot by watching.
So good.
Right. So, what you're saying is, if you just ask people, you talk to them, they'll tell you what they're thinking. They'll tell you why they're doing it. And it's often I find that it's really good to, observe a lot of the data and make meaning out of what people are doing today. But sometimes it's worth slowing down and smelling the roses a little bit and doing some exploratory research, go talk to customers, do some in-depth interviews, understand the unconscious drivers of their thinking, understand what they're really doing and why before making decisions, because you could rush ahead with a whole lot of false assumptions. And all it takes is 30 in-depth interviews to figure it out.
Yeah, and I'm definitely not saying don't try things, just listen. for example, it's common sense that people are spending more and more times on screens, and they're spending more and more times on social media and more time on these YouTube and like it's common sense. And you can start looking at data and be like, yeah, that's true. So should I be on those platforms? Should my brand be on those platforms? Yes. Okay. So I can start making like, there's the puck and that's where it's going. What I'm really leaning into is, okay, well, now that you're kind of going there, what should you do there? What should your strategies be? That's where the listening and opportunity part comes in. When you charge bullheaded forward going, well, I already know. I know what they're doing. This is the perfect solution. Then you are destined to go off the cliff.
Alec, it's been an amazing conversation. I really enjoyed chatting about all this wide-ranging topics from brand to customer experience to employee experience to AI to human and local connection. What fun. Where can people go if they want to learn more about some of the things you talked about, like learning about mortgages and resources from LoanDepot or your podcast or things like that?
Yeah. So my podcast that I actually started about 4 or 5 years ago because I wanted salespeople to see the power of podcasting. So I did one myself. It's called the Modern Lending Podcast, and it's really sales centric. It's digital centric. It's designed on personal branding and how to build your business. So that's a great vehicle. I wrote a book called Bypassed. That's on Amazon and all those places where you can kind of see the local into digital transformation and sales and marketing that I think is going on around us. And obviously, LoanDepot is extremely active on our social platforms. So feel free to come hang out with us and, share insights or connect. But yeah, there's lots of fun places we're hanging out.
Well, you definitely sparked some great ideas for me, and thanks for sharing with the audience. I'm sure you sparked some great ideas for them on their journey. You see, I'm working my brand in there. JourneySpark.
I love it. Let's go.
Thanks again, and really looking forward to more conversation together.